We've got a phenomenal lineup of speakers today, and I'm here to introduce the first one, Denise Drummond-Dunn. Denise comes from Switzerland. She's got 30 years of experience in senior executive roles with Nestle, Gillette, and Philip Morris International. She founded C3 Centricity, a global consultancy that provides strategic counsel to the executive teams of billion-dollar brands. Her latest book, which you have in front of you, is Winning Customer Centricity. And I encourage you to look at it. It's not your typical business book. It's very easy to read, and as Denise says, there's a thought a day. So if you simply go through 2 pages a day, you've got a great book in front of you. And it's heralded by Paul Polman, who's the CEO of Unilever, as a must-read for today and tomorrow's marketers. She's a new breed of marketer. She combines creativity, technical know-how, and global cultural sensitivity. She has spoken to customers in over 100 countries around the world and probably knows your customers. So without further ado, let me bring up Denise for what I'm sure is going to be a very exciting presentation.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Oh, we're awake, are we? It's hard on a Monday morning, isn't it? So I thought I'd try and help to wake you up. No sound. Okay, that wasn't as loud as I would have liked it, but I hope you're all awake. Monday mornings are never easy. I certainly can't work without my first cup of coffee in the morning. If that hasn't woken you up, then maybe this next slide will. Fine, we're okay. Don't worry about it, Pierre. We're being replaced. People are being replaced today. Robots are replacing us in our homes, in our offices, and in a little while in our cars as well. Drones are delivering our products. Computers are delivering education. We are in a world of change, and it's going to get better or worse depending upon which side you're on. And in the market research industry, we're getting replaced as well. Or unless we come to some really good decisions over the next couple of days, we might risk being replaced. The market research industry, according to the latest ESOMAR figures, is stagnant. And for once, Europe is leading the way, but not in a happy way, because the industry is already declining in Europe. So we're not proud to be leading over North America, but you're not that far behind. Now you account for the lion's share. You account for 43% of the global market research industry at about 18 billion, and Europe is not far behind at 16.2. But what these figures show is that the time has come for us to do something about it. We've reached a tipping point, and if we don't respond, it's going to only get worse. And maybe the industry won't exist 10 years from now. Now, in the CASRO, in the GRIT report that just came out at the end of last year, 3/4 of both suppliers and clients agree that now is the time to transform our industry. At least we both agree on it. But, as you can see, there's 23% who say, well, they're not sure, or no, it's not the right time to transform. So if there's anybody in the audience that's in those 23%, I'd love to talk to you in the breaks, because I'm definitely in that 77%. So I'd love to hear your views, either at the end when I can answer some questions, or in one of the breaks. please come up and tell me, because I think we've got to do something about it. Now, in that same GRIT report, they showed the top 10 challenges of the market research industry. And at least both suppliers and clients agree about the top 3. They are technology, consulting skills, and handling data. And Scott mentioned these in the introduction. What I find interesting about these results is that suppliers and clients don't really agree on what is the priority. As the suppliers are pushing to introduce new technologies into methodologies, on the client side, they're already struggling with the amount of data flowing into companies because it's no longer coming just from market research. So I think the good news is that at least we both agree that we need to improve our consulting skills. But maybe suppliers and clients need to work a little more closely together, because the clients definitely need help with all this data, and we need to help them to manage it, to analyze it, and to integrate it with other information that is now flowing into organizations, whether we like it or not. Marketing today has become as much an art as a science, and I was pleased that in the Korn Ferry results that they issued last year, the top 2 skills for marketing that are sought today are analytical skills and customer centricity. I'm very happy with that, because analytical skills we already have. We've been doing it. That is our profession. Analyzing and making sense of information, not just data. And to be honest, if we don't do something about it, well, the data scientists that we're hearing about all the time now, because of big data, are going to take that part of our role away. We are the best at analyzing data and information and integrating it. So we need to stand up and claim our spot. And customer centricity, well, if you don't know me, I'm a customer centricity champion. It's what I did in Nestle and Philip Morris, and I am very keen that businesses put the customer first. And I know P&G talked about the customer as boss, but the customer, the client, the consumer, however you talk about the people that make your business viable, we have to please satisfy and hopefully delight them. So marketing, art and science, customer centricity, is important, and it makes good business sense. It's not just something that's the latest buzzword. In a Forrester report called The Business of Customer Experience or Customer Centricity, they showed that those companies that put the customer first grew 3 times faster than the S&P index, and a whopping 7 times faster than those that didn't. So customer experience, customer centricity makes sense. Now, Forrester mentioned in their report that one company they named as Sprint, that I think you all know, we don't know in Europe, but I think it's a telecom company, is that correct? Yes. Yeah, okay. I don't know their reputation, so I can talk naively about them. They showed that Sprint added $1.7 billion to their bottom line just by improving the customer's experience online. Now, I don't know any CEO that wouldn't like to put $1.7 billion on their bottom line. A lot of companies don't have $1.7 billion on their bottom line. So an extra is incredible. What the study also showed is that in those companies that were leading in customer experience, 91% of those had it as a top company objective, compared to less than half of the laggards. So it's very clear that customer experience and placing the customer first has to be a top company objective, sponsored by the CEO of the company, or at least somebody at board level. And in that way, you're going to grow your companies 3 times faster. Now, I want to help you to become more customer-centric and to help your clients also become more customer-centric. So I have 3 ideas for you. And these are 3 challenges that Scott mentioned and Jeff mentioned that we all know we're going through today. The first one is customers. They're becoming more demanding, they're becoming more difficult to reach and difficult to get us to answer our questions. Secondly is the excess of information, because I said in companies we are not the only providers of information. So market research and insight are having to cope with a tsunami of information coming from multiple sources. And thirdly, it's the lack of insight. And I'm surprised after all these years, I go into companies all the time and they're still working with information, not insight. So these are the 3 challenges that I want to address this morning. And I want to provoke you and get some ideas going. My background, as Jeff mentioned, is primarily on the client side. The last 5 years I've been on the consultancy side, and I can tell you one job is just as frustrating as the other. When I was on the client side, I was frustrated I didn't have the resources I needed to do the work I knew I could do. Now I'm on the supplier side. I'm frustrated that clients don't make up their minds for days, weeks, months. But when they do, they expect to have the answers in hours or days, maybe weeks if I'm lucky. So I feel your pain, and I'm feeling it too now, because the supplier side, my golly, is that frustrating. So these 3 challenges, how are we going to address them? So the first one, exacting customers. The problem today is that people don't want to be interrupted in their daily lives. They're not sitting at home waiting for us to interview them. They're out and about, and yes, we can contact them through mobile, but we can't continue to do what we've always done and just put it on mobiles and expect them to answer. They don't want to be interrupted. They want to give their opinion. People love giving their opinions. But they want to choose where and when they give it. And we have to keep that in mind. So my proposition is, let's take the customer view. Be honest, would any of you like to fill in a 30-minute telephone interview? Would you like to respond to a battery of attribute statements that probably don't mean anything to you, and you're replying for brand after brand after brand? If we take a look at what we're asking our respondents to do, I think we wouldn't do it. So take the customer's perspective, and automatically we're going to improve our connection with our respondents, with our customers and clients. Let me give you a couple of examples of a way that we can take the customer's perspective. Now, this is the type of business objective that we're asked to help our clients with. What price should brand X be? If we turn that into customer-centric objective, that would be, at what price does our target value brand X? What price would they be willing to pay? Now, I think in terms of pricing, we're pretty good at understanding that when we talk price, we're actually talking value. But turning that business objective into a customer objective, immediately we know the questions we need to ask, and whether it's through price sensitivity or something else, we're going to get the answers that the business needs. Now, another example is this one. How can we grow the market share of brand A? Why is the brand not growing? Typical thing that we're asked to gather information about to understand. Turning it into a customer-centric objective would be, how can we attract consumers from competitor brand B who are looking for a low-sugar carbonated soft drink, as an example? Immediately, we know who we need to contact, we know where they're coming from, and we know what they're looking for. And I think you'll agree, by turning that business objective into a customer objective, immediately will deliver better answers and better research, because we know exactly where we have to go looking. So that is one way to solve this issue of demanding customers that don't reply to our interviews. I read that telephone interviews in the US are now under 9% response rate. I mean, 90% of our efforts are going to waste. That's crazy. We have to find a way of making our reports, our surveys, much easier to answer for our customers. In order to have that customer objective, we need to understand our customers better. Now, these are the results from ESOMAR's Global Market Research Survey. They just issued at the beginning of this year. And I was shocked. I don't know how you feel about these results. This is the split of the market research budget globally. Now, as you can see, we are spending 4 times as much budget on the 4 Ps of pack, price, promotion, and product than we are on the people. But how can we get the package or the product right if we don't know the people we're developing it for? Now, what is the reason for that? My feeling is that it's easier to test 2 products and say which is the winner, to test 2 packs, to do a price sensitivity to know what price we should be selling the product at. But how can we do it if we don't know who we're doing it for? I really believe we should be spending twice as much money on understanding the people as the other 4 Ps of marketing. Now, when I say understanding consumers, I don't mean the who of demographics. I don't mean the what that they're buying or consuming. I don't mean the where that they're seeing the advertising. I'm talking about the why. Why are they choosing the brand they choose? Why are they consuming what they do? Why are they motivated by our brand or not our brand? The why is far more important than the other 3 Ws. And that is what we need to work on in market research. And the reason that I say we need to work on it, these figures come from eConsultancy and show the basis of segmentation used by companies around the world. 1 in 10 are using psychographic, attitudinal, motivational elements for their segmentation. Most companies are still using demographics and behavioral data. Now, if that's all you use, the chances are you're going to be targeting young men, older housewives, just like everybody else. Unless you understand the why of the segment you're trying to attract, you're not going to attract them, let alone satisfy and delight them. So we need to be spending more of our budget, well, your clients need to be spending more of their budget on the attitudes, on the why of the customer, and not make do with just the demographics. So it's no longer business as usual. We are going to have to move from measuring directly and from memory, which is what we do in our surveys, to indirect and probably real-time measurement. Things like smartphones, smart bands, etc., that measure everything without having to ask questions. I'm always quoted as saying, we'll start getting answers when we stop asking questions. Because when we ask questions, people give us an answer. But I'm not sure it's the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So if we can do it indirectly, and I think with the Internet of Things we'll be able to, we will get better answers. The surveys, instead of being long and infrequent when we have research, they're going to be more frequent, they're going to be shorter, and above all, they're going to be fun. As Scott mentioned, To engage the consumer is the only way we're going to get them to answer any sort of questions. So we have to be fun. We have to just ask the couple of questions that we need answering. And I know what it's like on the client side. Oh, well, as we're doing that research, could we just add this question? And could we just add this section? And suddenly our research becomes really long and complicated. We can't do that anymore. They have to be short and frequent. We'll do a couple of questions today. We'll do another couple of questions next week. The questions, they have to be fewer and very precise on the topic, and not 5 topics in one questionnaire. The topics are going to go from the who, what, and why, where to the why, because as I've shown you, that is where we can really add value. And the samples are going to go from large to absolutely massive when you're getting information from smartphones or smart bands, etc., or tiny. We'll be talking in ones or maybe tens, because more and more marketing is moving to individuals, understanding the individual. And finally, we're going to move from a market and brand focus to a customer focus. We're going to move to understanding people rather than brands. So it's not going to be business as usual. So that's some answers to our demanding customers. Now let's move on to the excess of information. As I said, information is coming from multiple sources, not just market research today. And if we think we've got it tough today, watch out. And Scott, it's not growing at 20%. Apparently it's now growing at 40% annually. And it will quadruple between now and 2020. So if you think you've got problems, or if our clients think we've got problems managing data, it's only going to get worse. So we really have to help them to integrate all the different sources of information, not just from market research. According to, that was the Oracle figures, and according to, comes from C Discovery, by 2020, more than half the world's population is going to be connected. And that is going to be fantastic news for us. Because again, we can get information without asking questions, or only asking questions to understand the why. So it's good news for us. This excess of information, if we can use technology to help us, then we can help our clients not to be drowned by the tsunami of information. We use technology today in market research, whether it's facial coding for understanding emotional response, neuroscience, eye tracking, virtual and augmented reality. And we are struggling as suppliers to integrate this into market research. My feeling is we should be doing this to help us understand the why, because all these technologies help us to understand our customers without asking questions. So we really have this opportunity, not of just making surveys a little bit more sexy because we've got using technology, but really understanding our consumers by integrating technology into the work we do so we don't need to ask so many questions. And by doing that, we will better understand the why. There's another area where we can understand, and again, we don't have to ask questions other than of the data. And that's using search and social media. And arguably, these are the best sources for customer understanding. They are the customers at their most honest, because especially with search, they're looking for things that they're interested in. And therefore, we can see what they're interested in. So understanding customer behavior will come by working more with search and social media information. Social media is sometimes true, sometimes not, because how we portray ourselves on social media is not always the whole truth, and people always seem to be happy, don't they? It makes me feel depressed when I look at social media, because everybody's traveling around the world, everybody's having parties and wonderful dinners and everything. And I'm sitting at home with a sandwich and a glass of wine thinking, what am I missing out on? So social media, yes, but we have to be a bit careful. But search, it's unbiased, and It's indirect information because we can analyze it and understand our consumers without having to ask them questions. So coming on to the third challenge that we have, the lack of insight. Now, your clients and probably you all have some sort of insight development process. This is the sort of thing we have data and information being translated into knowledge and understanding and then into insight and hopefully action. Now, coming back to what I said about having customer objectives, you can see that having customer objectives also helps us to understand how we're going to action the insight at the end. So it's important that we keep in mind that when we're developing surveys, when we're integrating information, the idea is to understand our customers, to take action at the end. I'm so frustrated, both when I was on the client side and brand managers didn't listen to results or didn't take action, or when you're on the supplier side and you give the answers and you know what the company should do and they just don't do it. It can be so frustrating. But customer objectives will help that. So whatever we do, we have to keep in mind the so what. What are we going to do with the information? Turning that insight into action. And in order to do that, we need to develop some new skills. And I've been talking about these for a couple of years now, and I was so pleased. I don't know if anybody's here from Vermeer and Millward Brown. I'm sure you've all seen the Insights 2020 report. And they talk about the new skills that we need to acquire. And interestingly, I came out with exactly the same ones a couple of years ago, but I called them the 3 S's of success. And they are synthesize, socialize, and surprise. Now, synthesize, I've already talked about. It's integrating all the information to develop insight. So I want to talk about how we socialize and how we surprise our clients. One thing I find is market researchers don't get out enough. They tend to sit behind their desks. Do you find that? We sit behind our desks, we feel more comfortable analyzing data and looking at results and writing reports and all the rest of it, than getting up and talking. And this is a great event for talking. So I'm looking forward to talking to lots of you. Lacking insight is, I believe, a direct result of the fact we don't socialize enough. And what do I mean by socializing? I mean becoming the voice of the consumer internally. I mean representing the consumer. I mean talking to people. Insight development, if it's done by market researchers, will not be a success. We need to get different perspectives to develop insight. And the only way we're going to do that is to build relationships with people across an organization, not just the people that commission research. And that way, we build up this relationship so when we are looking to develop insights, we can bring them in. They're happy to collaborate with us. And we can share so much that we learn when we're doing research. These nuggets that don't have anything to do with the objectives of the research, but are important to know about. We don't share enough of those nuggets, those other findings that we get when we're doing research, when we're connecting with consumers. So we really have to socialize, both internally, if the clients need to do the same internally, but we need to talk to people across the organization. And the other thing we need to do, we need to watch and listen to our customers more often. We need to surprise our colleagues by bringing them along. How many of you have spoken to the consumers or customers of your clients in the last month? Put your hands up. Come on, Nick. Only that? My golly, not even a quarter of you. How many have done it in the last week? Okay. How many have you done it not through market research? Talking on the care centres, great. We've got a few. Care centres, watching and listening to consumers in the shops, etc. Connecting with our consumers in their lives, not just through market research, which is a little bit of an artificial world, if you like. This is what we need to do more of. And we need to get our clients to do it. And we need to get our clients to bring their colleagues along to watch consumers. And from my experience in doing this, both in Philip Morris and Gillette, is that they become addicted to their customer. They understand the role they play in satisfying. They understand how important their job is to pleasing the customer. And they want to join, they will make changes, whatever they're in R&D or operations or whatever. They'll want to talk to consumers. They'll want to see if they notice they've improved the pack or that they like the new product. They'll talk to promotions and merchandising people in the supermarkets and things if they have the chance of doing that, or in the retail organizations if they have retail outlets. They love it, but we don't encourage them enough. We do it in research. But there's a whole world out there that we can research every day. Now I want to share a couple of examples from Nestlé, one good and one less good, of examples of becoming the customer. Because it's not just enough to watch and listen to customers, you can also become the customer. And I had this great example with this, the first one, the infant formula. It was sold in a tin with a lid because it had to be airtight, keep it away from the light and humidity. And we had very few complaints from customers about the packaging. However, when I gave the brand managers the opportunity to become the parent, and those of you that are parents know this, when a baby wants to be fed, what do? They cry, don't they? And what do parents do to calm them down? They pick them up. So now, I've got a baby in this arm, and I have to open this tin. Now, it was fine before I held the tin, and I got a spoon or a knife, and I lift up the lid. I've now got a screaming baby in one hand. And it was only then that the brand managers realized the packaging was not suitable for their customers. So we changed it. It was still an airtight tin, but it now had a ring pull. And once the packaging was opened, we put a plastic lid on the top. Now, even with a screaming baby, you can flick it off with your thumb or your fingers. So it was only by becoming the customer that we managed to see. And the reason why there weren't many complaints, the customers went elsewhere. It wasn't a big deal, but they got frustrated in the end, so they just changed to another product. And as soon as we changed the packaging, the market share took off. So it wasn't a big deal. Consumers didn't complain about the tin. But in the end, they just thought, oh, this is too much hassle. I'm going to change brand. And that is the problem today. Products are so similar that customers will switch brands because there isn't that big a product difference. It's these small little things in our clients' brands that make the big difference. The shampoo bottle that clunks shut when you close it, that makes the products look and feel more luxurious. It's the little tin change making a plastic lid that makes it easier to use. Now, the other example, as I said, didn't have such a good ending. This is Mövenpick. It's a salad dressing. It had a screw-top bottle. They decided to update the packaging and the labeling. And now you can see we've got the Swiss flag there. That means quality. That means good taste. And it says rich in taste on it. And they took the opportunity to change the lid. Now you can see it has a little indent in it. And inside they put a pourer. Instead of having the screw top, they now have a pourer inside. It means you can be far more precise and only put a little bit of sauce on your salad. The trouble is, what happens when you're making salad? You're peeling the cucumber, you're washing the tomatoes, you're rinsing the lettuce leaves. Your hands are wet. You can't open that lid with wet hands because to keep it in the size of the cap, it only has a very little indent. And you need a spoon or a knife to open it. Now, I'm a sample of one. I changed brands. Again, the product wasn't that good to get frustrated every single day that I was making salad. So I just changed brands. They still hadn't changed the lid. I even wrote to the CEO and said, perhaps it's time to change your lid. He didn't respond. Not customer-centric. So I hope I've convinced you that customer centricity is the answer for both suppliers and clients. If we put our customers first, we cannot go wrong, because we will stop making a lot of the mistakes we're making today. We're going to improve what we do, and we're going to understand our customers better than anybody else. So, 3 major challenges that I hope I've convinced you are actually opportunities. Exacting customers, excess of information, and lack of insights. Can you just put your fingers up like I've got? Okay. How many of you have got your finger on top of your thumb as the little boy has? Anybody? Okay. Whichever way you've got your finger, I've got, as you see, my thumb on top of my finger. Put it the other way round. Doesn't feel comfortable, does it? Feels a bit weird. Good. That's how I want you to feel. Because we're going to start feeling a little uncomfortable over the next 2 days, because we're going to be challenged in our thinking. So feel uncomfortable. Keep those 3 opportunities in mind. Because if we don't, I don't know where the market research industry is going to be. If we don't integrate technology and become more customer-centric, I don't know if we will even exist 10 years from now. So thank you very much for your time. If there's one thing I want you to take back, I've given you a lot of examples, it's this question. What would our customers think of the decision we've just made or about to make? Every time you go into a meeting and you take a decision, ask what your clients, what your customers would think of that decision. If you don't think they'd like it, it's not the right decision, and it's time to reconsider. So thank you very much for your time. And I ask you, what will you change to lead customer centricity?
Thank you, Denise. That's just an outstanding presentation. And I think that one of the most, there are 2 embarrassing questions I never ask a CEO. One is, what's their vision statement? And the second is, when was the last time they talked to a customer? So I think it, points well made. So we have time for a few questions for Denise. Any questions out there? All right, Scott.
I've got actually one prescription, a debate that is going on within our organization every day. That is on the synthesis mission that you talk about. There was a slide earlier on that showed that one of the big gaps between perceived skill sets, that's a gap, is customers thought data management was a much bigger deal, or clients, than researchers did. Question on the continuum of, we take an output from big data and we go try and make it smarter, if you will, all the way down to actually doing some of the analysis ourselves and being able to manage and extract outputs out of big data. In that continuum, for the future of a market research organization, where would you point the future of kind of the market researcher or the journeyman? On that continuum, they got to be able to use and manage big data, to don't worry about it, just grab the outputs and try and make them, quite frankly, more usable.
I talked about robots replacing many areas. I feel that in the future, the analysis will be more and more automated through machine learning and sophisticated algorithms. We will get the output. What, up until now, has not been replaced is our ability to think and analyze. So I feel that is where we need to concentrate. So use our skills, use our brains, because they won't be replaced, at least in our lifetimes, by the robots.
Okay.
But it is worrying that suppliers and clients are worried about different things. But I believe it's because, on the client side, they just have so much information coming in, not just from market research. And that's what I think we as suppliers have to help them, is to work with them to manage data. And I know it's always an issue, is to bring to get the clients to give us that information. It can really be a problem. They have to trust us to open their vaults of information, and it could be so much useful for us for understanding. Yes, Andrew?
Great presentation.
Thank you.
You talked about socializing the voice of customers. You talked about socializing the voice of customer. Have you seen any innovative or interesting ways people are doing that? Or can you comment on anything you've observed? I think it is hugely important for people to do. It's just, how do you make sure that you make that digestible and that executives will listen and take that information?
It's building those relationships. That's what I mean by the socializing, is we are not good at talking to people. We tend so much to sit behind our desks because we have too much to do. I mean, to be fair, when I was on the client side, I was working 16-hour days, and I still didn't have enough time because I lacked the resources. I didn't have the budgets to ask you guys to help me. There was just too much. So I believe we have to hand over some of that data analysis, etc., back to you guys to feel comfortable. And then I can spend my time in the client side more socializing and more bringing in those other departments.
Thanks.
Does that answer? Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Andrew,
Yes,
go ahead.
Denise, as you know, I'm also passionate about customer centricity. It's important not only for clients but for our industry as well. Thank you. My question is, have you talked with the CEOs of many research companies about this issue and what it means for them in terms of changing their business model if they are going to be putting the customer first? Because as you said, I think in your presentation, saying no to the 40-minute, 1,000 interview a week tracker because it's giving you a lot of revenue, when everybody knows it's not customer-centric to do so, it's quite a nasty decision to make, but it's one they're going to have to make. Have you had any experience with how they respond to that question?
No, I've spoken more on the client side than on the supplier side. And my feeling is that it's up to us on the supplier side to work with our clients internally, give them a copy of my book, get them to become the voice of the consumer inside. So it's really helping them to become the voice of the consumer. And in that way, as I said, they will pass some of their work back to us because data gathering, forget it, we won't be used for that anymore. So we need to take that away from them. Technology will help on that, and then work with them to build up their voice of the consumer internally.
So it really is a partnership business model
Absolutely.
concept.
My golly, we are all, whether we're on the client or supplier side, we're at the tipping point of our profession. If we don't do something in the next 5, 10 years, probably maximum 10 years, the way things are changing, it's, we're going to be into the point of singularity in 15 years' time. That is scary, because when machines replace humans, as I said, we've only got our brains. That's the only advantage we have, only robots for now. So we better start using them.
Great. Denise, thank you. Denise will be here for quite a while, so if there are questions we didn't get to, please catch up with her during a break. Thank you.
Thank you.